This is part 5 of Who Was I Living With? And it's a little more difficult for me on this one because it is my parents. And what I went through was emotionally, for me, it was just difficult emotionally. And every time I think about what happened, I become emotional, and I can still feel the pain. So part 4, I left off with I got put in respite because when you act up or the parent needs a break, they can request for you to be put in a home just for a day or two or a weekend, and that's what it was called. It's called respite. So my parents, who I didn't know at the time, they came to get me from Ben Salem, from the foster home I was in, and she wanted me to leave because she was labeling me a problem child. I was acting out. I don't know. From my understanding at the time, she didn't understand why I was acting out or whatever the case may be, when I clearly told her the reason why. And I just felt like it was easier to blame me than to let her boyfriend go or deal with the actual problem. So when my parents, like I said, I didn't know them at the time, but I'm calling them my parents because that's what I call them for years. I've never called them any other name. So when my parents came to get me, I ran because at this point I had just downed a bottle of pills that I found. I washed it down with the solution I had for my airbrush machine. My sister was knocking on the door. My little sister was knocking on the door, and I didn't want to open the door because I didn't want to feel bad for what I did, like I said last time. So I just felt pain. I was asking God to take me without pain. I felt my stomach cramping. I just felt really sick. I remember laying there. I was ready to go. Like, nobody's gonna miss me anyways. I was tired of, like I said, I was tired of the questions of why I couldn't be let into my visits. Why didn't my mom want me at the visits? Why did they stop them? I was confused. It just felt like nobody would miss me anyways. So when my parents came and got me and I ran from them, I ran to the park. And I remember that they found me and they were trying to convince me to go with them. I didn't know them. I didn't trust them. It was, again, a man and a woman. And I had plenty of issues with both men and women, but I had little trust for men. Little to no trust for them. So I didn't know them. I didn't trust them. I didn't feel like I would connect with them, just judging off of what I saw. And so then I ran to the park. They came and tried to convince me, and I wasn't going. So they ended up leaving that night, and I ended up going back to the house. And I was just angry. I was hurting and angry, so I was steady going off. I don't remember all of the details, but I know that the next day was more of the same thing. I was angry, upset. I was gonna act up regardless. So they came back to get me, and I went with them. And when I got to their house, immediately, they lived in Bristol PA. And they had 3 sons and 1 daughter. When I walked in, it felt peaceful. It felt like a home. It felt like love. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than I walked in and it just felt like that was my home. So I was still feeling sick from the night before. And I went to the room, put my stuff down. I met my sister, I met my brothers. I don't remember all I was doing, but I do remember sometime in that day, I felt super sick to the point where I ended up throwing up. And what came out was the pills. My sister came in, she was holding my hair back, and she said to me, she looked at what was there, and I think she realized what I had done. And I remember her words being, "It wasn't your time to go." And I just cried. I was throwing up. I remember she flushed it down the toilet, and we just told my parents, or her mom and dad, we just told them that, I was just sick. She did not tell anybody what I had done, from my understanding to this day. She didn't tell anybody what I had done. And I was grateful for that, because I didn't want to be put into a crazy hospital or mental institution. I didn't want to be 302'd. I was scared of losing the feeling I just walked into. So I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. But I remember those words from her. And I don't know, her hug, her embrace meant a lot to me. I also remember I was sitting on the porch, and he would be a foster dad, but I'm gonna say my dad. He came outside, and at this time I wasn't calling any of them mom, dad, sister, brother. I wasn't saying those titles. I was sitting on the porch, and he just came to talk to me. And it was just, the conversation was so nice. Like, I remember just feeling like somebody got me. Somebody understood where I was coming from. And at this point, my dad didn't tell me what he had been through, but it was just in his conversations, there was something that made it feel like, yeah, this is my dad. This is my home. So I spent the time that I spent time there. It wasn't that long. They had to take me back to the foster home. I didn't want to go back. I had asked if I can stay, and they was like, well, we have to go through the process. I just remember them saying that I had to go back, and so I went back, but I was upset. I was happy because I would get to see my little sisters. I did miss my little sisters. And at the time, my foster sister, who was living there in Ben Salem, but I did not want to leave because I felt like I was home. They dropped me off, and I could not handle it. I didn't trust being there. I was scared. I didn't know if her boyfriend, the guy that was being nasty, if he would, end up coming into my room or what. I remember feeling uneasy and scared when I was there. So, I don't know. I don't remember what I did or said, but it pushed the process along, where she had asked for me to be removed, and they ended up asking my parents that they want to take me in full time. So they came to the house, and they had told me to pack my stuff and that I was leaving. I felt so sad in that moment because I knew that I would have to leave my little sisters. And I was unsure if they would be safe. But I was young and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be there. I remember giving my little sisters a book. It was like nursery rhymes or some type of story, kids stories. It was like a bunch of them in a book, I think it was. I remember giving it to them and just telling them to hold it, and every time they see it, think of me, because I would be thinking of them. I hate that day. I hate that day, having to leave them and not being able to protect them. And I feel guilty because in the midst of that, I found my home. So I felt guilty for being happy when my mom and dad came to get me, they took me home. They took me to their house. And I can remember getting out the car and just being able to breathe. I don't know the order in which things went or how it went, but I'm just going to, let you guys know, because it's not in a specific order, because I don't know in the order in which it went, but like great memories there. My brothers and I would go in the woods, and we would ride bikes through the neighborhood and go in the woods and play, and all the neighborhood kids would go outside and play. And it was nice. It was nice to be a kid and not have to feel like I had to fight. That was the first time I felt at ease, like I was safe. My mom would cook Sunday dinners, and we would have family meals. We would play Tetris together as a family. We didn't have TV in this foster home, so I didn't watch TV, but I remember the first time I called my dad, and my mom, because at first, I don't know if I called them by their last names or what I said to them. I really don't remember, but I remember that I was on the porch and my dad came outside and he was talking to me again, and he had told me his story, what he had been through, and I was like, wow, like I didn't know that. So then he had asked me a couple questions, and we were going back and forth and talking, and I remember saying, "You're my dad," and I hugged him. That was the first time I called him dad. Then throughout that day, I called my mom. But it was like she was a loving mother. So it was like her nurturing was there, and love was there. But the fact that my dad took the time and had the conversation with me, and it allowed me to be at ease, and just I can feel the walls coming down. I can feel the fact that I can just be, and I didn't have to fight. And for me to call him dad when I had my birth father and my stepfather who raised me, I just remembered feeling like this is my dad, this is my mom, this is my sister, my brothers, my home. I can remember that feeling, and it was so nice to feel like somebody cared, like I was daddy's little girl. And yeah, my sister, she actually taught me how to crochet. She actually taught me the Bible. She would sit down and have little Bible verses, read little Bible verses with me. And we would just practice together. We would talk, and I actually slept in her room. We shared a room. I was sleeping with her. And it was just really nice. Every morning I would wake up to my brother, John, singing. So he was my alarm clock. And my brothers actually had a band. Now, one of them that I can remember, one of them actually played a lot of different instruments, and he would actually record them and put it together. But all three boys had a band. They played in the band together, and we would travel, set up. They would play, and then we'd break it down and go home. I just remember going to church on Sundays with my family. The fires in the back, or just sitting around in the chairs and talking in the backyard. It was just a really beautiful time. It was one of my best memories of really feeling safe, feeling at home, feeling at peace, feeling like I didn't have to fight, feeling like I was daddy's little girl, like I had a mom, a sister, brothers, a father. Like it just felt complete. And I remember my mom talking about putting me in school. So I was supposed to start school. I'm not sure if I did start school, but I know it was summertime when I was there, because it was hot outside. I believe they were off of school, and we always went outside to play and that sort of thing. And so I don't think I started school because right before school was supposed to start, I just remember the mood changing immediately after a phone call. My mom received a phone call, and she was on the phone talking, and I don't know what happened on this call. I don't know how this came about. But all of a sudden, my parents, they sit me down, and they're telling me that I'm going to be removed. I just didn't understand. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why. That's the hardest thing as a child. All that day, it happened so fast because when they told me, I remember the caseworker pulling up. Sorry. Oh, it's a hard day. I knew I had to make this video. I remember the caseworker pulling up after my parents told me. So it happened so fast. I can't wrap my head around it. There were a few moments that flashed in my mind because when I get thoughts, it's just like pictures. So I can remember the moment that the caseworkers came to my birth mom's house, and everybody was asleep. We woke up late for school, so my brother and I were rushing to get ready because normally there were times where we had to walk my little sisters to school or take them to school or whatever the case may be. So we were late, we were rushing. We didn't even wake them up at first. And all you heard was like a bang on the door. And they said to my mom, "We're here to take your kids." That shit is scary. It is scary to be a little girl and not understand what's going on. Nobody stops to explain it. You don't understand why. And I remember my mom crying. She called my grandma, she called my aunts, like everybody came over. And my brother and I were trying to find a way to jump out of the window, the second floor window, but when we looked down, there were cops down there. So we couldn't jump. And I remember my baby sisters screaming and crying. My little brother was crying. And we were put in a car and we were taken away. But as we were pulling away, I could see my mom at the door. And that day at my parents' house, it was just a repeat of that. Being ripped away from the people you love and not understanding why. I couldn't comprehend it. They explained it to me to this day, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. They said, "Oh, because you keep running away or you keep acting up," and I'm like, I haven't done that here. I haven't done that here. It didn't make sense because when they took me from my mom and dad, they took me to my mom's mom, my grandma. And she didn't let me stay there. She didn't want, like, we were all confused as to why I was there. And the caseworker's like, well, we don't have nowhere else to put you. So it didn't make sense to me that they would just come rip me out of my parents' house. And what I thought for years was that my mom and dad had asked for me to be removed because that's the only thing that could make sense to me. And they said they didn't ask for that. So it just didn't make sense as to why would you rip me out of my home to give me to a family member that did not want me to be there or could not have me there. I can't remember all of the details, but then I remember my mom's sister, because I don't call her aunt really. My mom's sister was standing. She was like, oh, you're dumb. Why would you come here? Lady, I don't want to be here. Like, what are you calling me dumb for? I'm not the caseworkers. So they dropped me off there, and at my mom's mom, my grandmom's house, my mom was there, and I just remember crying. I remember freaking crying, confused. I'm like, when I try to do right, it don't work. And when I do wrong, it's like nobody wants to listen as to why I'm doing wrong. I felt like I was being punished for asking for help. I felt like I was being punished. Oh, I hate that. I hate that day. I can't. And so I didn't understand it because that was my home. We had great memories. We had so much fun. We did so much together. It was like you would wake up and be at peace, and the bird, like it felt like a movie when the birds chirp outside your window, and throughout the day the kids are laughing outside playing, and you don't have to worry about nobody getting shot or cars running the ball over when you're playing outside in the city. Like it wasn't like it was just a home filled with love. I don't get it. Till this day, it doesn't make sense to me. And so she dropped me off there and left. And my mom and I, my birth mom and I, we hopped on the Greyhound and went to my sister's house in Philly. And I was there. That's where a few things I experienced for the first time with my first, who became my son's father. But yeah, I was just hurting. I was a hurt child. I was confused. I was tired of being hurt. And I really didn't care about myself at that point. That was the point where I stopped caring about me. Nobody else did, so why should I? I can care less. And so I did some reckless things. But they had told my sister that I had to go to court, and that I had a date or whatever, and I had to be at court. And when we went to court, she got there and they told her had I not shown up, they would have just let me stay with her. But because I showed up, they ended up putting me in another placement. So that'll be another story. But yeah, this one was hard. I didn't want to do this video. It took me a while to do this one because it's just I don't want to cry on camera. But yeah, that was my experience, and that home was the first home I didn't experience abuse. Was the first home that I experienced feeling part of. I experienced love. I experienced everything I wanted and desired. Things that I experienced with my stepfather, who I thought was my birth father. I was his little girl. He did everything for me. So what was robbed in that situation from finding out that he wasn't my birth father, that my stepfather wasn't my birth father, was given to me in this home. And that was the best feeling in the world. To have that ripped away, to this day, I don't understand it. And as an adult, it still bothers me. It still hurts because I'm confused, and I can feel the pain of that scared little girl that was getting ripped away from her parents. And it sucks because as a child, I know that you can't do much. But I just wanted my birth mom to fight, like jump on his freaking car and not let them drive away with your kids. Give up your boyfriend, who they said wasn't supposed to be in the house, and fight for your kids. And I wanted that for my parents. I wanted them to fight for me. I wanted them to be like, no, she's not leaving. It just happened so fast that I don't... Yeah. All right, I'm done. I'll see you guys next time.